Built in 1886 by Daniel Wesson, the wealthy gun manufacturer of Smith Wesson fame, the White Cliffs is an excellent example of the elegant summer cottages built in the late Victorian period by the rich barons of industry. More common in resort areas like Newport, Rhode Island, we are fortunate in Northborough to have such a landmark so close at hand to study. Hi, my name is Brian Smith. As a resident of Northborough for about 22 years, and as a member of the Historical Society, and as a neighbor of the White Cliffs, I can go out my back door in the morning and see the building through the trees. I've always been interested in that estate, and I've tried to imagine what it was like back when it was built. And so I've done some research, taken some footage of the grounds as they appear today, and I'd like to share that with you. Now, the estate was built by Daniel Wesson and his wife Cynthia in 1886, and it may have been actually built on land originally owned by Cynthia and added to by purchases by Daniel. And it turned out to be about 100 acres in full flourish, a very large estate. Now the Wessons, this was a summer home. The Wessons spent about 18 years summering in Northborough, and they both died in 1906 at a very advanced age, since Daniel himself was 61 when the house was built in 1886. The house was reported to cost in excess of $300,000. It was built using imported labor, much of it from Italy, very fine craftsmen, and by 1887 the town report mentions that in addition to the main house there were many outbuildings built, such as a greenhouse, a barn, shops, additional houses, a reservoir constructed, and a pumping station built. This presentation will do a number of things. We'll look at some old maps and pictures and discuss them. We'll tour the grounds as they appear today. We'll discuss the elaborate water system, which I find very interesting. And finally, we'll tour the interior of the house and maybe try to track down some of those stories. Here we have a map of the Wesson property about 1900. Bordered on the lower part of the screen by Main Street, Route 20. It ran down to the Aspet River, which appears at the upper part of the screen. On either side you can see very straight lines which represent the massive stone walls on either side of the property. It's a very intricate network of paths and roadways. On the left, the path goes over a kidney-shaped pond, which is the pond that had the fountain in it, and then down the hill to another pond. Right in front of the house you see a blue dot, which I believe represents the very large and ornate fountain that stood there for many years. The path on the right-hand side, going down towards Route 20, continues on across the road, which of course was not a busy highway at that time, into the maintenance and utility area, where we have a couple of large barns that are marked by the X's. We have the superintendent's residence that you see to the left of the screen on Maple Street, and we have another residence that you see on the lower left of the screen, also on Maple Street. There are also two houses close to Route 20. One of those houses still stands, and I might say the superintendent's residence and the other house on Maple Street are also still standing. The pink building that you see in the upper left corner of the screen was the greenhouse, a very large and ornate building where plants and shrubs for the estate were tended. That location currently is where the Chinese restaurant is. Looking at this shot, approximately the center of the screen, you can see a piece of property just south of Route 20 labeled S.H. Hunt. This is the house that I believe Cynthia Wesson's mother lived in. So you can see they were quite close, in quite close proximity. Here is a picture of the White Cliffs taken shortly after it was built. You can see the vegetation is not very mature. Now this view is from the southeastern corner of the house, and over towards the right you can see the beginnings of a very large outcropping of ledge that is on that side of the house. The very ornate fountain is really one of the focal points of the early estate, and I wonder where it went. It'd be interesting to know if anybody knows where it went, but it appears that it's topped with a bird, large bird like a stork or perhaps a heron. And since there were many blue herons, or there are many blue herons today, I should say, flying up and down the Assabet River, perhaps there were then, and perhaps that's the reason for the motif. Here we have a close-up of that same picture showing the driveway edged with stone, and a walkway heading towards the house also appears to be made out of those small stones. This angle shows how little vegetation there really was in those days. Even at ground level there was quite a view, and you can see in the background the hills to the northwest. It probably had a good view of Mount Wachusett. Cliffs is really a marvelous example of late Victorian architecture, described by one author as consisting of highly irregular plans, discontinuous, asymmetrically massed forms, and the manipulation of surfaces with varied textures. Roofs were high and punctured by many variously shaped dormers, and we see all those features as we take a look through this close-up of the White Cliffs. Here we see the beautifully detailed brick chimneys, the use of asymmetrical windows, terracotta moldings, kind of randomly dispersed over the exterior, a variety of different shingle textures, fancy railings on the portico to the left, and the use of stained glass above many of the windows. Note the kind of basket weave design in the gable end of this portico that faces out over the town, and you can see there's a stained glass window right inside that design, and that we believe is the spider and fly stained glass that appears downstairs today in one of the in the bar area of the restaurant. Here's another good look at the fancy chimney work, and the tops of the towers that are now missing. There are two towers on the building, one on the southeast side and one on the northwest side, and at some point long after the Wessons were out of the picture, the roof sections of the towers were dismantled, and it's just flat today. Here's a good look at the exterior detail on the lower floor, where we have red sandstone and very intricate porch supports and railings. The porte cochere. This no longer exists on the building, and the porch area adjacent to it is now inside the present White Cliffs. The perspective from Main Street, looking across the sidewalk and up the hill, you can see in the just behind the that tree on the right, the fountain is sticking out. Now, if St. James Drive had been there at this time, that's approximately where this picture was taken from. And you can see mostly open fields, this beautiful stone wall that runs from Main Street all the way down to the Aspet River. And just over the top of the stone wall, you can see the bridge that goes across the pond with the fountain. Speaking of the bridge, it's very interesting to note that the bridge was rebuilt at some point in time, and this is a look at the original bridge, which was very rustic in nature, with logs comprising the structure. It looks like with some of the bark perhaps still left on. You can see the fountain is spouting pretty well in this picture, and you also get a good look up the hill at the west side of the house, with and a good look at the circular porch that was around the left-hand tower. That porch is still there, and I think we'll see it a little later, but it's fully enclosed and inside the White Cliffs restaurant. In fact, that's where the bar area is right now. Here's the same view in later years. Note that the bridge is now built of smooth timber with what appears to be an iron railing in the same design of the original, but different materials. You also notice that there's a lot more vegetation. So this was some years after that the previous picture had been taken. Here's a look at the bridge from the other side of the pond, from the house side. And again, a lot of vegetation here, and the bridge is in its newer form. One last look at the pond and the bridge from a postcard entitled "Rustic Bridge, the Cliffs, Northborough, Mass." Now this is an interesting view of the house from the Route 20 side, in that it is one of the few pictures, perhaps the only picture that I've seen that has a human life in it. And in the foreground you'll see two maintenance men, and we'll get a little closer look at them. It appears that they have some kind of pruning tools or hose or some kind of grass clippers that they're pushing. As you can imagine, there was a lot of maintenance surrounding an estate of this size, with all the vegetation and the ponds and the roadways. Now here's a structure that most of you are probably familiar with. This stood until very recently right along Main Street on the corner of the property where the new duplex houses were built a few years ago. And you can see how rustic a structure this was, and they call this some people call this a summer house. Those posts that are holding the roof up and the roof structure were still standing up, like I said, up until a very short time ago. And if we look in the center of the picture, you can see an enclosure, and in that enclosure was a well. Now I can remember going up to this and looking down into that well before they capped it over, and seeing shafts or tunnels going off in different directions. So it looks like they had a pretty significant water supply coming in there. In this close-up, you can actually see the cover to the well, and you can see right in the center of the picture a rope going up to a pulley that was attached to the ceiling. Here's a nostalgic view down Maple Street, and some people call this Wesson's Corner. On the left, that first house is the superintendent's house of the estate, and the other buildings, barn and other houses, would have been further down on Maple Street. Here's another look at that intersection, but looking east along Main Street, and you can see here the greenhouse in the background and two of the houses that were used by the workmen and employees. And the first house is still standing, and we'll see that a little bit later in some more recent video. Just a little closer look at that same perspective. And here's the greenhouse itself, a truly magnificent building. You can actually see through the glass, you can see some trees being grown inside the greenhouse. I would suspect that this is a fairly early shot because there isn't much vegetation around the structure. Now, this is where this went, or where it is, if it's still in existence, is somewhat of a mystery. We have some notes in the archives that indicate that it was moved to a nursery in Framingham called Little Tree Farms, but there's no date as to when it was moved. I've done some looking around and some asking around, but to no avail. So if anyone who's listening to this presentation knows its whereabouts, I'd sure like to know. Next, we're going to go to some more recent footage of some of the things we've been looking at here in these old pictures.
Okay, we're looking at the beehive formation at the end of the wall on the west end of the estate, which still stands here at Route 20. And you can see how beautiful these walls are. Obviously, a lot of labor went into putting these together. This one goes all the way down along St. James Drive down to the Assabet River.
Well, the White Cliffs looks quite a bit different today with its white paint, its absence of tower roofs, and quite a bit different landscaping.
The White Cliffs of Northborough are now here. It's right about over there where that big branch is sitting.
It's where the summer house where the well stood. Here's a closer view of the Route 20 side as it looks today.
Okay, so here we're at the corner of Route 20 and Maple Street, and we're looking at that same view in the picture. And this is where the greenhouse is located, right where currently the Key Loon restaurant is located. And here's one of the surviving two houses in the picture, much in the same style it was in back then, in 1890s. So that's the smaller of the two houses. And then there was a larger house over here where the
Blue house is.
We're looking at what was the superintendent's house of the Wesson estate, and you can see some very interesting architectural features that carry through most of the buildings on the estate. The beautiful brick chimneys, the varied types of roof lines, the imaginative use of different kinds of shingles, the overlapping and the fish scale style. Quite a pretty building, still standing here on Maple Street. Well, right about here was a large barn in between the two estate houses, which held carriages and later on, it's reported, Rolls Royces for the estate. Okay, here's the other employee's home on Maple Street, a little further down from the superintendent's house and past where the barn used to be. And we can see again the same kind of architectural styling as the other buildings. And we see off here in the distance another termination point of the stone walls bordering the property. Duplex home, by the way, 25 and 27 Maple Street. More of the fine stone wall detail. Just imagine the manpower that went into building these walls. Beautiful. We'll walk down here, follow the wall next to the Peasley School. You can see how massive this wall here is. It's probably about close to 7 feet tall in this area, 7 to maybe even 8 feet tall in some places, as it kind of drifts off into the distance. We're down here, across Route 20, down behind the everybody's bicycle shop, looking at the area where, somewhere in this area, there was a large barn for the estate where probably the horses were kept and animals were kept. And you can see some very large flat stones here, which are possibly remnants from the foundation. They seem a little bit too regular just to have been deposited here naturally. Down by the dairy hut, here adjacent to East Main Street, we see one of the few remaining areas of cobblestone bordered walk which went all through the estate. And this is quite interesting type of architecture, which a lot of people have commented on in most of the historical references over the years. Obviously a lot of labor went into this, placing these cobblestones this way. And we're approaching the eastern terminus of the estate property. Again, we see another large beehive configuration at the end of the stone wall. Little cobblestones on top. This wall borders the property and parallels Warren Drive all the way down to the Assabet River. We're at the intersection of Warren Drive and the new Stratton Way. We're going to walk up here and take a look at where the wall has been breached, and then we'll take a walk down to the lower pond. Got a shot of the back of the White Cliffs. There's a spot where the wall has been broken. New foundation going in here. And we can see the wall picking up again. And running right down to the Assabet River. Here we are on the lower road. What's left of it. This was a good sliding spot in the winter for the kids. And you can see the Assabet River in front of us. Riverside eastern terminus of the wall is kind of interesting. It takes a little jog. There's an opening here that you could walk through, and the wall kind of continues in a little bit of a jog till it goes down to the river, and there's another, what looks like another beehive structure down there. And here we are at the lower pond. Looking up at the new houses and over towards the western wall, which we'll walk to. And there's the Assabet River, and we're here at the western wall of the estate. You see another little jog similar to the one on the eastern side, the remnants of one of the beehive rock structures, and the wall headed on its way back up to Route 20, and this wall, of course, parallels St. James Drive. We're standing on St. James Drive, and just on the other side of that wall was the upper pond with the bridge and fountain. And as you can see, with the new houses going in, looks quite a bit different. Of course, the pond was long gone even before the houses were put in. There was still a depression there that you could see, but that was all that was left. Now, with all the demands for water that there was at the White Cliffs, from ponds and fountains and wells and greenhouses and landscaping and household use, a place like that required a lot of water. And this was, I think, one of Daniel Wesson's pet subjects anyway. And so he went to great lengths to ensure a very adequate water supply for his estate. And down off of Bartlett Street was his pumping station, a very handsome granite structure, and would pump water that had run across the road, under the road from Bartlett Pond, and pump that water up to the White Cliffs. And we're going to tell you a little more about that with some recent footage that was shot of what's left of the water system. Here we are at Bartlett Pond, about a mile away from the Wesson estate, and the site of the gatehouse that took water out of Bartlett Pond and brought it to the pump house on the other side of Bartlett Street, right behind us, where the water was pumped on its way to supply the needs of the Wesson estate. This pump house, or gatehouse here, blew down in the hurricane in 1938, and a lot of trees also blew into Bartlett Pond at that time, which had a lot to do with the deterioration of the water quality, as the trees were never removed and the vegetation decomposed and colored the water. Now the water came from the gatehouse through a very large pipe, about 18-inch diameter, went under the road over to the other side and down to the pump house, which we'll go down and visit that site in a moment. After going into the pump house, it was pumped through pipes, 4-inch pipes, up to Maple Street, and up Maple Street, and then up on top of the hill where Wesson Terrace, this Wesson Terrace Street currently is located. More about the dam. The Wesson engineers, apparently to get enough water out to pipe down to the pump house, had to raise the level of the pond by 2 to 3 feet more than normal, and resulting in some flooding of some surrounding land, which they were subsequently sued. 27 Bartlett Street. This was basically, right in here was the entrance to the Wesson State Pumping Station. And we can see, if we walk down in here off the road, we can see some of the remnants that match the stonework of the pumping station that's further downstream. Little stone post that was probably marked the entrance to the pumping station. And nice little granite capped stone wall runs right along beside the embankment leading up to Bartlett Street. So if we can imagine a road going down through here, we'd find that if we walked a couple hundred yards, we'd come right down to the remains of the pumping station. Here we are down in the woods off Bartlett Street at the site of the old pump house for the Wesson estate. As you can see, the pump house has lost much of its former glory. Looks pretty dilapidated now. No roof, really no interior, just a shell of its former self, with a sluiceway coming back out into the brook, where I imagine the excess water would have come through. Interesting that some of the window casings are still there. They've survived all these years, open to the weather. Beautiful stonework. We're down here off of Maple Lane on the other side of Bartlett Pond from the pumping station, and here's another element of mystery surrounding the Wesson estate. There are 3 wells located on this site that probably not many people know about, but as you can see, this one I've uncovered here has a very substantial cast iron cover with a hasp on it that looks like it could be locked. And what you can see of the A little bit of what surrounds it looks like cement, perhaps over brick. And there's another one of the wells sticking up amongst the leaves, about 30 feet away from us over here. I'm not sure where the third one is, but I understand there is a third one. Now, it was speculation that these wells were dug but never actually hitched up to the Wesson water supply, as the water department could never find any pipes coming out of them. We're up right here on the hill at the top of Wesson Terrace, which comes off of Leland Drive. And we're at the site of probably maybe the most interesting feature of the Wesson water system, and also a little known feature to most people. This is a cistern which is sitting in the ground up here on top of the hill, and it's approximately 40 feet in diameter. It's lined with brick. You can see these big granite blocks sitting around the edge of the cistern. And it basically held water that was pumped up from Bartlett Pond, from the pump house, and allowed it to gravity feed down to the Wesson estate. Since we're at a point that's higher up than the Wesson estate, it provided plenty of water pressure. And of course they had tremendous water needs with ponds and fountains and greenhouses. So you can see it's very grown up here. There are pretty good sized trees coming right out of around the sides and even the top of the cistern. We'll take a walk up the side here. Up to the top. Now, up until a few years ago, this had an opening here that you could actually go down with a ladder or some ropes and go to the inside of the cistern. And it was reported that it was kind of a hangout for kids. But someone recently has capped it with concrete for safety reasons. So we're looking off at here at some of the houses as part of the Wesson Estate development, and we're looking in the general direction of Bartlett Pond. And as we swing here to our left, we're looking toward down the hill towards the Wesson Estate. And you can't see it from this point because of the trees, but I would imagine that this was probably all bare in 1887 when they built the estate. As we get on the road a little bit on our way back, we'll be able to see the estate, and you'll be able to see that we are indeed at up at a higher level than the house. We're standing here on Wesson Terrace, a good number of vertical feet below the cistern, and you can see we're approximately at roof level to the White Cliffs. And as we kind of pull back and turn around, you can get a view up the hill back up towards the cistern. Well, here we are at the present-day White Cliffs restaurant, and we're going to go in the exterior door here. And the first thing we see when we come in the lobby is the original exterior doors, quite handsome, made of oak with pretty intricate carvings. And you can see this is the
This was the exterior of the building. If we look up, we can see the stone, which has been painted over white, and we can see some of the decorative moldings, which were around the outside entryway. All right, let's go inside and then take a tour. Okay, we're inside the White Cliffs in the foyer with Teresa Jacobson, who's worked here for about 12 years as a waitress and poked around through some of the nooks and crannies in the building, and she's going to take us on a little tour. Teresa, let's take a walk over here to this fireplace, because I think this is probably almost the center of attraction in the whole building. And this time of year being kind of cool, there is a fire going in the fireplace. And this is it's really a beautiful piece of work. It's the best of all the fireplaces, I think. And this one shows exactly when the house was built, in 1886. And the inscription in the brass is East West Hames Best. Now Hames kind of looks like a misspelling, but I asked Teresa to do a little research on that. What did you find out?
Well, Brian, I looked it up in the Oxford English Dictionary, and hame is just another word for home.
That's good, because I think a lot of people are concerned that
Yes.
somebody made a misspelling there, which would be kind of a critical,
Unusual on such a beautiful
critical
fireplace.
flaw, right?
But Brian, if you could get your camera in there,
Well,
notice
don't
much
want to get
more.
it too close,
No,
because we'll
Brian, but
melt it. If you could just
some real
tilt that
intricate
screen.
design
forward.
inside. Appears to be dragons.
Look at that on the fire back. Coiled dragons or snakes. Dragons, I guess. It's kind of
Looks like dragons.
kind of burned out.
Just kind of interesting. Dragons breathe fire.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
have a little bit of
that's
a-
right. Fire-breathing dragons.
Have a little bit of a
Yeah, it's got some
theme to that fireplace.
right. Very intricate carving around the mantle. We've got a little seat here by the staircase. Extremely detailed carvings in the corner. Very beautiful staircase. Looks like oak. Turned kind of dark with time, but definitely oak. It's a beautiful room. We have a view looking back towards the massive front doors. Again, you can see lots of intricate carving right up around the edges of the ceiling, edges of the doors, and the simulated beams in the ceiling. Very typical of ornate Victorian architecture. Okay, what room is this that we're going into here,
This
Teresa?
is the library.
This is
And
beautiful.
Sure is. Here you have some bookcases over here on the left. Some of the woods that were used were the teak and the walnut and the oak. And the furniture matched the woods used in the room.
So he really had the details down.
And in the foyer we saw one of the fireplaces. This is the second. There were 17 altogether.
Wow. Look at the beautiful inlaid tile here.
Yeah. Notice the cupboards up above too. Beautiful.
Here we have an example of ornate hand-painted geometric ceiling designs found throughout the house. These have undergone some restoration work by the present owners. Beautiful room. And look at those stained glass windows. Wow.
That's really something.
Now-
All the exterior windows and doors had the Venetian wooden
Oh, look at that.
doors that came down.
All the way down to cover the window,
Yes,
or door, as the case may be.
as well as the windows have them as well.
Now this room out here is actually
was a porch.
was the porch at one
Yes.
time. Probably many of our viewers have sat out here at different functions and maybe didn't realize that this was the exterior of the building at one time. Although, if you look at that, the stone, it seems pretty obvious that
Yeah,
this was the exterior.
That was what the exterior looked like.
Red sandstone. And you can see, if we look this way, you can see where the porch openings were to the outside. Currently a window in here. I guess we're going back into the house proper.
We're entering the music room
Music room.
with its high-pitched ceilings of the molded plaster. And this room was said to have incredible acoustics. Contained an organ. And there's a number 3, third fireplace we've seen.
Fireplace
Just going
number
in.
3. We're going to count all these fireplaces? Maybe there's some that aren't here anymore.
Maybe you could do that. This is marble, though.
This
That's
one,
a
yeah.
great. That's
Yeah.
a great example of the marble work.
Okay, now this wood, I'm not sure what this wood is. This looks almost like it's cherry. It's a very light wood and has very little grain. Beautiful, beautiful craftsmanship.
Yeah. See the cornices up over the windows too that held the very heavy drapes. And this is the original wall covering.
This is a gold fabric.
See a little
Wow.
bell here, ring.
Bring the servants.
Yeah. Doesn't work anymore though.
These rooms have dividing doors that pull out from the walls. Why don't we try this one here and see if it works? Oh, yeah, look at that.
The brass.
Look at those beautiful inlays.
And this looks like
Veneer inlay.
a different. This is the cherry as well?
Well, I don't know. That
I don't
looks
know, that looks like a different
that looks even lighter than the cherry. That could be
teak.
could be the teak. Very pretty.
In the foyer and into the original dining room. Very dark wood.
Oh yeah, this is real dark.
Yeah. Contrast to the music room.
Must be where
Beautiful marble.
they. Oh, look at that. Gorgeous.
Drawers.
Look at this ornate carving.
Isn't
This
that
is
something?
incredible. Wow.
Really is something.
And you can imagine this filled with fine china. Another fireplace. Green marble on this one. This almost looks like mahogany.
We have circular motif. It's
Okay,
throughout
this
the
was
house.
another one of the, what I would call the turret rooms, which this also faced, or has an, we're looking at an exterior wall here. So
That's right.
we're going to walk around in a minute and see what that looks like from the other side. But there was a large circular porch that was just outside of this wall we're looking at. All right, let's take a walk out and see that porch. Okay, here's the, you can see again, within the current structure, the remains of the exterior porch. This was a beauty, a big circular porch that ran all the way around the northwest side. Here again you see the original color, the red sandstone
That
exterior
original
wall.
stained glass window too, Brian. It's really something.
That's a
You
beauty.
don't see them like that anymore.
Right. Right. We've got brick here. We've got some terracotta moldings. Beautiful. Look at this beautiful tile floor. And between the floor and the building itself was reportedly a moat-like fish pond that surrounded the outside of the dining room and was within the confines of the porch. Here we see some more of the exterior brick wall and the termination of the porch on the northwest side of the building.
This is where ice was passed from the outside, perhaps into the kitchen.
Into the kitchen.
Yeah.
Or actually into a very large walk-in refrigerator, which stood right behind this wall, adjacent to the kitchen. Okay, many of you are probably familiar with this room, if you've been here for parties or for dinner, and you've noticed the large spider and fly stained glass window in this room.
We believe this piece was moved from the porch on the third floor.
Right. Yeah, it's just about the same dimensions as a window opening in that porch, and you can see if you look carefully at the old pictures that there was a window, some kind of a window in there, and we suspect it's this one. Now there are stories that Daniel Wesson didn't get along with his mother-in-law too well, and that window was kind of aimed in her direction.
That's right.
The Black Widow, perhaps, but we don't know if those stories are true. In fact,
But we do know that Daniel Wesson took Cynthia Hawes away
well, that's true. He was
against her parents' wishes.
right. It was an elopement in 1847, and I guess Daniel wasn't the first choice of suitors.
As
And
an older, more wealthy man
right.
was.
right. So, anyway, that's the story about the spider window. Now let's take a walk up the main staircase to the second floor and see what's up there. Now, here's an interesting feature.
Now this, well, it's hard to detect now. This is a picture of the White Cliffs of Dover.
So this is actually what the house is named after,
That's correct.
where it gets the White Cliffs moniker. And that's probably a lot of people don't know that. I know I've never really thought much about it, and I think for years I just assumed, well, it's a big white building, so it's called the White Cliffs.
Yeah.
But it makes more sense to see that picture, especially since we know the building wasn't originally white. Now, I've been up here for a few functions myself, and I've always remarked at how beautiful it is.
The ceilings are the real highlight of the second floor.
Wow. Another magnificent feature of this house is the large stained glass skylight that sits over the main staircase. It's surrounded by curved wood panels and provides light for the staircase as well as a picture of the White Cliffs below. Here's another example of the imaginative use of water at the White Cliffs. This little pool at the top of the staircase to the second floor, probably in what was the foyer. I imagine it contained a fountain. A very, very interesting remnant of the estate. But this is where there were bedrooms at one time. And each bedroom had
a fireplace like we see over here, and it had a marble wash basin, hot and cold running water, which was very unusual for the time. And I believe they had faucets that were gold for the hot water and silver for the
yeah.
cold water.
Mhm. Looks like stained glass windows were taken from here, Brian.
Yeah.
Yep.
In fact, actually, no, actually the glass is still there. It's just broken. See, it's kind of an opaque, kind of a marbleized looking glass.
Hmm.
Kind of hard to imagine these as bedrooms,
Sure is.
especially for a summer house. Okay, where to next? Up to the third floor? Okay, what do we have here?
We have a hallway.
A hallway.
Kind of interesting, though.
Look at that little door.
Yeah.
Look at the work
It's really something.
that went into just a small little access door like that. What's in there, can we tell? Probably can't move the,
We can do whatever we want, Brian. This is just pipes.
just pipes.
Just pipes.
Okay. All right, so
Okay.
where are we going here?
Well, this is the back hallway. The attic door to the third
attic
floor.
door. Are we going to get up there?
Sure are.
Good.
Back staircase.
Okay. Is
That's
that goes
the-
back down to the kitchen?
Yes, the access to the main kitchen.
Main kitchen.
And
And this is the upstairs kitchen.
it's used for an upstairs kitchen now, but it probably is a
Might have been
remnant of another bedroom.
another bedroom, because
Yeah.
here we have another fireplace.
There's another fireplace.
Right. So he's been playing pick-up sticks here.
Yes, we do that when we're not busy.
All right. Now, this is where most people haven't been before, so
Yeah.
this should be interesting.
And Brian, you can see that the original, I'm
Oh, yeah, the
sure
original-
this wasn't enclosed.
Right, that's
This
right.
original did have a banister.
Right, it was an open staircase.
Right. I don't think it even works. Very narrow, well, not too narrow. Steep stairway.
I don't know if
It's
that
used
was,
for storage.
is that
and-
Daniel Wesson's original cash register there?
Yes, yes. It's quite messy up here now, but you can see the beginnings of the bench that goes all the way around the stained glass
Oh, wow.
piece.
Oh, this is the, okay, this encloses the
Stained glass
stained
piece.
glass skylight.
And of course, people would sit on this bench and admire the view.
Wow. Now, I guess this was always, oh, I see. Look at this.
Some of these open. They used to open. Yeah.
Okay, so right now there's a light in here that shines down on the stained glass. But you can see, if we look up here, you can see the skylight out on the roof where the natural light comes in down through the glass. So this is really an enclosure around the shaft for the stained glass skylight. It's very interesting. Look at this bench. It's amazing. You're right, all the way around.
Brian, come on over here and get a look at this view from here. It's really something.
Wow, it is. Look at that.
You can see the town hall and Trinity Church,
Look at that.
Unitarian Church in the distance.
Beautiful. Kind of feel like the Lord of the Manor up here, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
A little drafty up here, though.
Sure is. But I love the shape of the rooms. And here's a,
Oh yeah, these are the.
really neat.
Okay, this is the porch that I believe had the spider stained glass in it. If we peek out this window here,
It's open.
peek out this window, you can see the opening. Oh, we can actually go out on the porch?
Come on out, Brian.
Let's go out on the porch.
Oh, this is pretty up here.
Wow.
I bet the Wessons never saw this view because they were only here in the summer. So,
They didn't see the snow, right?
we're seeing a winter view. Isn't this a great porch?
It really is. Because in those days there were very little trees around. This was all
That's right.
rolling grass lawns, and right about where we're looking was the pond with the fountain and the bridge. This is great. And oh, this is great. We get some.
I'm gonna go get my camera. Let me get a picture of this.
We get some views of the exterior from up here, some of the detail, these asymmetrical windows that you see in the pictures, the old pictures. It's a good look at the overlapping shingles that look like fish scales that were pretty popular back in the Victorian period. We're looking down towards the Assabet River and the new houses that are being built as we speak. It has a pretty good view of the hill where the cistern is that supplied the water for the house, up off of Wesson Terrace. So there were more
Somewhere, but
bedrooms up here.
oh, let's go this way. Oh, here we have the attic, only accessible by a ladder.
I think we'll have to take a peek up there.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, this is
Okay, we're going out into one of the turrets here.
very low ceilings.
Wow. Now this used to have, this may have looked different originally because it had those high, peaked, it had the high cone-shaped, I should say, cone-shaped roof on it. So the ceiling may have been quite different.
This must have been so comfortable. The breeze probably
Although-
came through the window.
Although actually this looks like an original fixture, so this must have been the original height of the ceiling. Wow. Oh, this is a pretty room.
Look at this beautiful oak mirror.
Oh yeah.
A couple of gems left. What I always thought was neat were the huge crawl spaces that went all through the second,
Third floor.
third floor.
We're on the third floor. Let me take a peek in it.